So, there are a lot of creationists out there, and they're not necessarily organized. It's not monolithic. There's not a unified front. That said, there's still a lot of them. And they're often influential through various kinds of groups with larger agendas. Campus Crusade for Christ, for example, often promotes creationism at the national level and through various chapters. And although there aren't, you don't see lockstep hordes of creationists descending, nonetheless, there's some, how shall I say, nexuses of consultation obviously going on behind the scenes, since they perversely refuse to copy me on their email. I don't send them my email.
I wonder if you could say a little bit about the Ben Stein movie. I was in the, it's been a while now since it came out, and the impression I get is that it really was it was a real flop for the anti-abolitionist crowd. Is that your impression also?
Yeah. Well, let me back up for those of you who have the pleasure of not having heard about this. So there's a film called Expelled, which alleges that proponents of intelligent design have been systematically discriminated against and punished, and also alleges in passing that evolution is scientifically bankrupt and responsible for the Holocaust and swamps on puppies and the whole bullshit. This is my bread and butter. I see this every day. What's different is that they actually made a movie that got major release out of it, and they got a well-known person, namely the actor and pundit Ben Stein, to front it. So this comes out in 2008 in over 1,000 theaters across the country. I might add that Creation, the new documentary drama about Darwin and his wife, came out in 7 theaters nationally, although it's spread out a little since then. And there were even some creationists who felt that Expelled was over the top. So it seems to have largely been a flash in the pan, I'm glad to say. It clearly must have lost money for the producers. It is going to be shown in church basements around the country from now to kingdom come. NCSE was fairly active in countering this. We put a lot, as with Kitzmiller, we put a lot of effort into assembling a response. And you can find that at expelledexposed.com, where you can find out more about what's wrong with that movie than you ever wanted to know. In some ways, I think it has damaged the credibility of intelligent design overall. For one example, last year it was announced that the University of Vermont was going to award an honorary degree to Ben Stein. This was apparently largely because Stein had given a talk there a couple of years ago that had been well received, and also the president of the University of Vermont's, one of these guys, his wife was roommates with the brother of. Okay, well, when that became clear, the biology department at the University of Vermont was extremely unhappy, because after all, Stein had been going around saying that evolution is a vicious dogma responsible for the Holocaust. And this got national attention. Richard Dawkins wrote a very nice letter to the president of the university saying, have you seen this film? Apparently the university said, we have this problem, and Stein, as the university reports it, Stein graciously agreed not to accept the invitation, and according to Stein, he called him chicken shit. So, whatever. But obviously, that was scheduled below to Stein, and the fact that the University of Vermont realized that it shouldn't be associated with repulsive propaganda like Expelled was going to make sense. I guess.
Yeah, do you foresee another Supreme Court case on the horizon? Maybe at the level of Edwards versus Aguilar? Testing ID?
It's possible. What you need is testing ID is going to be interesting, because what you would need is a school board that was, hadn't been paying attention, that was really stubborn. In the case of Kitzmiller, the school board was on the hook for $1,011,000. That's $1 each of the plaintiffs, and $11 million. It would have been more. It would have been like 2.5 million or so, but the the plaintiffs were pretty generous about being argued down. That's a lot of money. And most school board members really just want to do their job, which is keep the roof on the school and keep the buses running, and so forth. So you need a really doctrinaire school board and one that was blind to the lessons of Kitzmiller. What is more likely than a Supreme Court decision about intelligent design, I think, is going to be a Supreme Court decision about these fallback strategies of impugning evolution while being silent about the preferred creationist alternative. Now, these strategies go back a long time. The California Board of Education adopted a policy that evolution be presented as a theory, not fact, in 1924. But given that explicit advocacy of creationism, whether creation science or intelligent design, just is not going to work, we're going to see more and more of this kind of sneaky tactic. And the case law is not as clear. There are a couple of cases on point. Kitzmiller versus Dover actually does have stuff in the decision about theory, not fact. There was another case in Georgia, Cobb County, Southern v. Cobb County, which involved a textbook disclaimer that didn't mention God, didn't mention the Bible, didn't mention creationism, didn't mention intelligent design. That was kind of a complicated case. The trial court found that the sticker was nonetheless unconstitutional. That decision was appealed. The appeals court said that the evidence was not clear, and they remanded the case back to the trial court. What happened then is Kitzmiller had been decided. So the plaintiffs in that case, who had been challenging the constitutionality of this evolution disclaimer sticker, got a couple of the Kitzmiller lawyers and experts on board, and then because they're going to retrial, and then went and made a settlement offer, and that case was settled on terms highly advantageous to the plaintiffs, but we don't have like a really solid precedent to build on from there. So it should be interesting. Maybe over the next 12 years. Yes.
One of the recent creationist phenomena is that creationist museum, especially in Kentucky, but there's also one in San Diego and Texas, another wonderful one. Does NTSC have any thoughts on these museums? It seems like they are sort of separate organizations that keep whatever they want. There's no constitutional or official involved.
Yeah, well, creationist museums are private organizations, and we should also note that creationism is often taught in private Christian schools, not in Catholic and Episcopal and Lutheran schools generally, but in fundamentalist Christian schools. It's also taught in Bible colleges, for example, and you know, in a democratic society, I think we need to be okay with that. There's no constitutional violation to, teaching bad science for religious reasons. Certainly, there are places where there's going to be friction. There was a case recently where a number of students at a Christian school, plus the Association of Christian Schools International, sued the University of California system over its admission requirements, because the University of California had been disqualifying some high school courses as not adequate preparation for college. Included among these were biology classes that used some creationist textbooks. And the University of California system has won that case and again on appeal, so it looks like we're holding the line there. But certainly when people are teaching creationism privately, also goes on homeschools all the time, I think we just need to live with that and just keep on educating people about evolution.